Q&A section earlier today, and it was supposed to be about anime and voice acting, and it ended up being about Star Trek. Can't help it, sorry. Let's see. How many of you, I know it's kind of a Star Trek panel, but it's kind of a Star Trek Continues panel. How many of you have seen our series, Star Trek Continues? Yay! The rest of you? No, listen. We're going to try to set up a little sizzle reel here for you guys to see. Just so you know, for those of you that don't know what we did, she told me about it. For those of you that don't know much about what we did, several years ago, I wanted to kind of fulfill my childhood dream, which I'm sure is a lot of yours as well. And that was to play my childhood hero, Captain Kirk. And so I had worked with a lot of fan productions over the years, and I felt like it would be really neat to do something like that, and do it at a higher level than it had been done. There have been tons of fan productions over the years of all varying levels of, production quality and stuff. People just expressing their fandom, which is great. That's all good. But I really wanted to do what had never been done, and that was finish the 5-year mission. Those of you that remember the original series remember that Captain Kirk used to say at the very beginning of every episode, "These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. It's 5-year mission." But they were canceled in their 3rd season of television. And the next time you saw any of those characters was 10 years later in Star Trek The Motion Picture. So my thought was, wouldn't it be cool to fill that gap? Pick right up where the original series was abruptly canceled and finish the 5-year mission of the Enterprise. Return the ship to Earth. It goes into dry dock exactly where it was when the motion picture begins. And then we even craft stories to explain why Kirk even ever took a promotion to Admiral. If you ever watch Star Trek, you know Captain Kirk loves nothing more than his ship, right? You would have thought that they would have needed to drag him kicking and screaming off his ship, right? Why in the world would he take promotion? Why would he take a desk job, right? Why would Spock go back to Vulcan, where he was at the beginning of the motion picture, to pursue the culinary discipline, right? Clearly something happened to these people that affected them enough to want to make these big career changes. McCoy quit altogether, right? It's like, I'm done, I'm out of here. So we started crafting stories to leave everybody right where they were with the motion picture ended. For those of you that haven't seen it, we've got over 15 million viewers. We've won a dozen awards. It has received very high marks from people like Rod Roddenberry. Can't get any more than that, any better than that, really. And our studio, actually, we rebuilt the entire soundstage, just like the original footprint from Desolate. And it's available. It's actually still standing in all its beauty in Georgia, where we shot at a studio, and we open the studio 1 weekend a month for people to take tours. If you ever had a childhood dream of walking through the Enterprise, you guys, there is no word description. Has anyone been there?
Yes.
Now, what were you there for? She was our guest star in our 6th episode. She killed it. She was amazing. And you've been there, right? Tell him. Am I making this up?
No, it is so cool.
You guys, when those doors open at the end of the corridor and you're looking down that bending corridor, I mean, I've seen people cry, laugh, swear, jump up and down. Like, it's surreal. Because when you were little and you watched that show, it would have never occurred to you in a million years that you could walk onto the bridge one day and sit in the captain's chair. Or that you could step up onto the platform in the transport room. right? I mean, it's great. And oh, I didn't even mention the best part. It's free. We charge nothing for people to tour the studio because it was all built out of love. It was all built as a passion project and a labor of love. So we open it one weekend a month. In fact, next weekend I'm going down there. I'm already excited, even though I haven't just about lived there. But I go down and I do the tours myself because it's kind of my baby, right? And so next weekend is our last one before the summer break. And then we'll pick it back up again in September. It's a little hot in South Georgia, as you can imagine. So starting out back up in September, October, November, December, check out neutralzonestudios.com for all the details on the weekends, sign-ups, again, all free of charge, and come down and celebrate with us. How are we looking here? Are we looking pretty good?
I think we're good. Just get your phone.
You want to give it a try? Is somebody, can somebody man the lights for us? I think it might be better to see if we hit the lights for this. Excellent. Just exactly as I projected. Here it is. Okay. So. And now, do we have to change inputs or something, or what?
No, in case you need inputs. Old school rock.
Right? I was thinking the same thing.
Everybody's trying to figure out how the lights are off.
Feel free to talk amongst yourselves about Star Trek, preferably.
Just wait around and then they're like,
Okay, until we get it working, you guys give a big round of applause to the cutest guest star we ever had, Gigi Edgley. She's gonna pay me later, she said. Well, let me tell you guys just basically some of the people that were part of our series, because I'm very, very grateful and honored. We had, for our cast members, who knows who played Scotty in the original series of Star Trek? James Doohan, Jimmy Doohan. Chris Doohan plays Scotty in our series, and he's amazing. He's perfect. Chip off the old block, so to speak. Grant Imahara from Mythbusters, yeah, who sadly we lost tragically so young, but he played Sulu. He's amazing. Other voice actor friends of mine, Todd Habercorn played Spock, did an amazing job. Chuck Huber, who was supposed to be in this panel, but he missed his flight. He missed his connecting flight this morning, so he's just now arriving. So feel free to go give Bones a hard time. Where are you going?
I want to watch.
What if we never get it working?
She has faith in you.
And then when it comes to our guest stars, okay, our first episode was called Pilgrim of Eternity, and it was a sequel to an original series episode called Who Mourns for Adonais? Who's the Star Trek fan that remembers that episode?
Yeah.
The Green God Apollo, right? Played by Michael Forrest. Michael Forrest reprised his role as Apollo in our first episode. And we actually explained, we had a good reason for why he's 60 years older, but it's only been 2 years in Star Trek time since they met him, but why does he look so much older? And we came up with a good reason for that. That's a very good way of thinking. See, somebody's already thinking about it. Who else did we have? We had Gigi Edgley from Farscape. She's alright. Lou Ferrigno. Okay, I gotta tell you about this. I was doing a convention just like this with Lou, and we were having a drink at the bar in the hotel one night, and we were building the sets. And Lou said to me, "What are you working on right now?" "What are you working on, Vic?" And I was like, "Ooh, look, we're building these sets and we're gonna make this." And he goes, "I love Star Trek." And I'm like, "Cool." And he goes, "I want to be in it." And my first thought was, dude, you're 8 feet tall. You're huge. Like, who could you possibly play? You know, we don't have any episodes featuring the Jolly Green Giant. You know what I mean? Like, no episodes featuring, I didn't know what to do with it. And then we were writing our second episode, and it was about an Orion slave girl that stows away on the Enterprise seeking asylum from the slave trade industry. What color are Orions? Ironically, the same color as the Hulk.
What do you think about that?
Well, he didn't want to do it. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you the answer to that question. So,
He's a Greek god.
the original. Oh no. The next step. This is the so we had written the screenplay already, and there was no character in there for Lou. And I thought, oh my gosh, if there was ever a character that Lou could play, it would be an Orion slave trader. And I imagined, like a Fu Manchu mustache with like beads hanging off of it, right? And bald, and like cool little chains on his ears and stuff, like really cool, right? And so I asked Lou if he'd do it. And he said yes. And then I thought, okay, now I have to write it in, because he wasn't in the script. So we rewrote the script and added this character for him to play. And he came down, kicked butt, was made for it. The whole time he kept saying, "Can you make me blue?" But no, Lou, I don't want to be green. Blue! Orions are green, bro, sorry. So he's like, okay, don't make me look like the Hulk. Like, bro, you're gonna look badass. You're gonna look really cool. You're not gonna look anything like the Hulk. So he flies down to the studio, and we're all getting ready to shoot, and he's in the makeup room, and he's still trying to talk the makeup people into making him blue. Like, dude, we're late. Play the game, bro. We told you gotta be green. He had such a great time, and I won't tell you what happens to his character. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you. But as soon as we were done, he's like, "I want to come back. I want to be in it again." And I'm like, "Well, that would be kind of impossible, Lou." And you'll understand why when you see the episode. We had Colin Baker from Doctor Who. We had, who was Nicola Bryant, his companion from Doctor Who. We had Aaron Gray from Buck Rogers. We had Rekha Sharma from Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek Discovery. In fact, 3 weeks after we finished shooting our episode with Rekha, she called me and said, "You're not going to believe this. I just booked a character on Discovery." And she had just finished shooting our episode. Who else? Daniel Logan, who played Boba Fett, I call him Baby Boba Fett. Little boy Boba Fett. Jamie Bamber from Battlestar Galactica, from the reboot. Anne Lockhart, who was in the original Battlestar Galactica, and John Delancey. He didn't play Q, but it was a cool character. We had a lot of great guest stars. Cass Anvar from The Expanse. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Sorry? Yes! Claire Kramer from Buffy. Yes, sir.
And episode Ferris Hall, I think.
Yes.
Who was the one that you had voicing the computer?
Oh, yes, thank you. The voice of our computer on the Enterprise, if you hardcore Trek fans, you know, it was Majel Barrett who voiced the computer in the original series, right? So guess who we got? We got the next best name, Marina Sirtis. She was the voice of the computer, and of course, Majel played her mom, Deanna Troy's mom. So we thought that was a nice connection. And then we did a sequel to the Mirror Universe. You remember the original series episode was called Mirror Mirror. Well, I don't know about you, but when I was a little kid, there was that final scene where Kirk challenges the evil Spock to make a difference in his universe. You remember that? And Spock was like, Captain Kirk, I shall consider it. And then he beams him back. And I remember even as a little kid wondering, I wonder what happened. Like, I wonder if Mr. Spock did anything with that challenge that the Prime Universe Kirk gave him. So we wrote an episode that picks up literally right at the moment that episode ends. In fact, we recreated the last minute of Mirror Mirror, shot for shot, line for line, lighting for lighting, and then when they beam away, the camera never leaves. And the mirror landing party beams right in, and the whole episode continues on the Mirror Enterprise. And the episode title was Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, Who's the Fairest of Them All, is the title of the episode. And as you know, in the Mirror Universe, the computer had a male voice, right? Michael Dorn. Yeah, Worf. How are we feeling? Any thoughts? Excuse me one second. Who's got a question about, ask anything, and I would love for you, I really want you guys to go home and check. If you haven't seen the series, check it out. And yes, sir.
I'm trying to do some kind of 7 degrees of separation, like a 7 degrees of separation.
No way. No.
Or is that just acid?
No, we've never had Kevin Bacon.
Are you on a
Actually, yes, I do, of course. Of course I get it.
Or is that just getting too weird?
No, I get it. Yes, sir.
Okay, I was put up to this stuff. You know who put me up to this if I asked this question. I was told to ask you about you and William Shatner eating oysters.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think?
Okay, first of all, let me just go on the record as saying I love Bill Shatner. I love me some Bill Shatner. Bill and I have had the chance to do a lot of events together. We share a booking agent, so we've traveled the world, we've had dinner, we've had cigars together. I love him, and you know what I never said in his presence until very late? Star Trek. Never talked about it. You know, as far as he knew, I was just another guest at the show and worked with his same agent. Because I didn't, I wanted to kind of become, kind of friends with him, peers with him, not just, he's been dealing with fans for 50 years, and And so we hit it off and got to spend a lot of time together. I love him to death. I just saw him again in Indianapolis a month or two ago. But we were doing New Orleans Comic-Con several years ago. And we went to this seafood restaurant. And it was me and Bill and this guy named John Macaluso, who used to run Wizard World, and Stanley, and Gary Hassan, our agent. So the five of us are sitting at this table, and Bill is slamming down oysters. I hate oysters. I mean, they just look gross. Like, I don't even want to eat it. They look like something you don't want to eat. I just, not interested, right? So Bill looks at me and he goes, would you like an oyster again? Would you like an oyster? And I'm like, oh, how do you say no to Bill Shatner, right? Damn it! If there's one human being who could get me to put that thing in my mouth, it would be Bill Shatner.
Just say no.
I couldn't! So, I'm like, no, Bill, I've never had any oysters in my life. And he waves down the waiter and goes, bring in some oysters right now. I don't even know what that is. So they bring the oysters right. I'm dreading, like I'm sweating. I'm like, this is really so embarrassing. If I say no, I'm rude. If I say yes and do it, I throw up. Like, what do I choose, right? So they sit them down in front of him like, and Bill's like, go on, do it.
Just swallow.
He said, what'd you think? Did you like it? I'm like, it was okay. Like, I only ate that for you, Bill. I told him that. And he goes, well, I'll eat the rest of them. I think he just wanted them. I think he really wanted another order of oysters rockabelle. I think he just used me, you know. It means fun.
They're better fried.
Just
They're better
swallow.
fried.
Ooh, wait a minute. Hold on one second. Don't
He
hear
was
it.
just trying to get you to tell the oyster story.
Okay, can we turn lights out? Let's try it. Wait, there it is, lights.
All I desire is life and peace.
You expect us to...
There he is, Michael Forrest. You ready for some loop right now?
You back there? Yeah.
Oh, yeah!
You and your sausage, you'll be lucky to come in a bounce.
I'm about to violate a direct order from Sergeant. What the hell is going on, Mrs. Spock?
It appears you were temporarily interchanged with counterparts from a parallel universe.
Status report.
Entering vessels have entered orbit, sir. They're charging weapons.
Lock onto their leadership and fire.
Captain?
I said fire!
I am the captain's woman.
You are, aren't you?
Grand.
Join me. Together we shall be the architects of our own.
So that was our third episode, and this is our fourth episode with Tom Baker.
Sister world opposes our desire to join the Federation. They also...
Target acquired, Captain.
We're losing weapons, Locke.
Fire faces. Why are you here? What do you want with the Council?
Humans bury feelings of heartbreak and loss. We lock them away.
Fifth episode.
What do you think it is? Intelligence. The procedure is not successful. We'll lose all three of you. The teaching damage is severe. If I run this ship, we're not. What can you do here? We're gonna have to amputate below the knee.
Oh, who's that?
Whose team tears to hide?
impossible to think clearly. It's getting hard to connect to the anchor.
You don't belong in that uniform. So, Commodore, to what do we have?
Episode 7.
The crew of the hood is unboxed.
The computer would appear to disagree with you, Cadet.
I prefer not to discuss
Cliff Kramer.
The deflector screens have activated. It's impossible to get a look. We can't bring them back.
Jim.
Rekha Sharma.
That's possible. The bridge is empty. It's filled with dead crewmen the last time I was here.
Are you even a captain? And you have no crew?
One man, two minds.
One of those minds was tampering with the other. The boat's destabilizing, sir. We're experiencing undertow from both singularities.
Captain, the inlet vessel has just entered the system.
Episode 9.
The world always looked like this.
It is as it has always been.
Look at me! Look at me. Keep your eyes on me.
Captain, we launched that probe. The Hylian will see in full, revealing color.
Their world is in turmoil. Technological innovation fueled solely by the desire to build more lethal weapons.
Stand here before me, lecturing me about compassion. Who do you think you are?
Captain's lost the plan. I've been exhausted. Has my judgment been compromised?
Forgive the attack. The train
Nicola Bryant.
another Romulan invader. The bioscience almost identical.
Cass Amber.
It is not the Romulan way, Captain. We can't trust our senses. Gentlemen,
When this mission is over, I will miss these times with you.
an attack.
I'm ordering you to pursue those Romulans into the sky.
Romulan weapon reaching full charge in 3, 2, 1.
With numerous recruit that.
You know the problem with that? Not enough GG, Edwin.
That's what I
Questions? Who's got a question about our series at all? Yes.
Has there ever been any discussion of making 15-minute episodes that take place for the refit enterprise?
You know what? I appreciate the question. After the guidelines, the fan film guidelines were put in place, we were asked to, quote, wrap it up. Now, let me just say something, guys. I am incredibly grateful to CBS. Some of you may think, oh, there's horrible, evil corporations, and they made you stop. Well, it really wasn't. They didn't have any problem with us. There were other people. Please don't say the names. We are not going to talk about them. I don't want to dignify and bring this down at all. But there were a lot of things that happened that kind of forced CBS to take it. Let's put it that way. And they could have called us and said, hey, you know what? You're done. Stop now.
Why did you finish?
But they called me and said, how fast can you finish it? For which I'm incredibly grateful. We were able to do what we set out to do, was to finish the original series of Star Trek. And even though I wanted to do maybe 13 episodes or maybe 15, we only got 11 done, but we did what we set out to do. We brought it to completion. And I honestly, in answer to your question, I kind of feel like we would be going backwards. You know what I mean? I feel like it would be kind of anticlimactic. You know, once you have accomplished that goal and you've just brought it to a perfect landing, you know, it feels like it would somehow be anticlimactic to be doing little shorts. Because our episodes, for those of you that don't know, are full teaser in 4 acts, hour long, just like the original series. So I feel like it would be a step in the wrong direction for us to just do little shorts. Now, I have a dream. I don't know that it will ever come to fruition, but I would love to do a Star Trek Continues feature film. I would love to do something in between the motion picture and the Wrath of Khan.
That'd be awesome.
In that space. And I already have the story in mind. If the opportunity arises, if circumstances permit in the future sometime, as Spock said, I would like to think that there are always possibilities. I would love to do that. But apart from that, doing something larger and forward from where we left off, I think it feels like going the wrong direction. Anything else? Yes?
My wife is going to be very angry.
Should I stand over here? Are you the wife? Are you the wife?
Yeah.
Hold on to her. Go ahead.
I have a 60th birthday coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yes?
Should I be a captain for a day?
Oh, you don't have to say yes.
Well, yes, but I don't have any authority. What?
We'll come to Kingston.
What? Yes, absolutely come to see the studio. Can you be captain? You could be an admiral for all I care. Oh, yeah. These guys are rising right up the ranks.
Could you be my number one?
Oh! Is this the part you get mad?
Shields up!
You know what? She'll be your number one for a day because that might be as long as you live.
There is a logic behind that.
Oh, yeah.
I have always been a fan of it.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be your number one, babe.
Thank you. She's going to be really mad about this, but thank you, sweet.
My pleasure. I love you,
Sort of, kind of, there is a question. How much would it take to do the video?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you have to?
No.
I mean,
I tell you one thing.
Well, there is
What?
there is a reason I asked. There is a reason I asked.
Because you
said you
insufferably rich and you want to help? Gigi, get over here.
You said you had a story in mind.
I do. In fact, it was a story that I wanted to do an episode of, and I thought, man, this would be a great feature film. Yeah. Here's the thing, though, by the way, guys, think
Come
about
on,
this.
people, let's lock it into something.
Okay, well, think about this. If we ever did a film in that timeline, we can't use the original sets. That's the Constitution class Enterprise. That's passed. So we would have to either build like Wrath of Khan era like Enterprise sets, or a hell of a lot of green screen, which is not the worst idea because there are guys out there that have built 3D walkthroughs of the motion picture Enterprise and the Wrath of Khan Enterprise. So it's doable. I mean, it's feasible.
Why would you not be allowed to use the? Why would you not be allowed to use the original?
The original. Oh, because that's past tense.
Oh, okay.
Because the original Enterprise was destroyed, right? And in the motion picture, they were refitting it. So it was the new Enterprise in motion picture, and then it was even a different one, I think, in Wrath of Khan, wasn't it? So it would have to be one of those. I would love to do it. In fact, if you guys have any interest in what I'm talking about, keep your eyes. In fact, follow us on Facebook. Follow us, Star Trek Continues official group. That's Gigi.
My bad.
If I win the lottery, trust me, the money's there.
Dude, if I win the lottery, I'll pay more myself. Watch our social media. And if we ever launch a campaign to try to do it, we would be most grateful for any help you can. Question? Yes.
A real question.
Okay, so one thing I've always been curious about when watching Star Trek Continues, obviously, like you said, it was a fan-made project, but at the same time, you also had a lot of people from the original series and TNG hop aboard, and of course, Ferrigno, people like that. So I've always been wondering, how were you able to get the financial sources you need and do things like not run foul of SAG in order to allow these people to, and I'm sure these people love doing it regardless of what they cost, but of course, again, SAG would have a word about that. So I've always been wondering, like, what was the, I guess, middle ground that was reached in order to have all these great people come in to do what is essentially a fan series, but at the same time, you know, hey, they gotta eat, and you know, they gotta work too.
Great question. First of all, let me say, I'm pretty sure Lou Ferrigno has no problem eating. Yeah, well, you know what I mean, right? Like Aaron Gray, these people are well established. They're not desperate for a job, first of all. Second of all, my mantra has always been, as a filmmaker, better to ask forgiveness than permission. That is a winning strategy, because you go someplace you're not supposed to shoot footage, and you get the footage, and then somebody comes along and goes, hey, you can't do that. Oh, sorry, we'll leave now. And you got the footage, right? And you take it with you, because that's all that really matters, right? Everybody that was a part of our series, all of the celebrities, anybody, when I had the same conversation with them before they ever came aboard, pardon the pun, before they ever came aboard, and that was, look, this is a labor of love. This is a passion project. Nobody's making any money from it. We raise money to pay for the hard costs, because there are hard costs involved, right? Everybody's going to fly to the studio. You know, United Airlines might like Star Trek, but they're not giving us free tickets. The hotels may be Star Trek fans, but they still expect us to pay for the rooms. We still have to pay to buy food for people to eat. We have to rent gear. We have, you know what I mean? There are hard costs involved. You got to make costumes. You have to make uniforms. Guess what?
Costs money.
Yeah, fabric. Joanne Fabrics charges money to buy stuff. So there were costs involved, and I'll tell you how we did this. Our first episode, building the studio, and our first episode, I paid for. Yeah, it was a lot. About 100. I probably put 150,000 in, but you know, to me, it was like, put your money where your mouth is. You know, if this is your dream,
We appreciate it.
then you do it. Don't ask somebody else to give you money for something that nobody knows whether you can do or not.
Let's get that VA.
So what I did was, I rented this building in South Georgia, and then I partnered up with a bunch of people to help build it, actually do the physical labor. But guess what? You gotta buy lumber, and buy paint, and buy carpeting, and buy nails, all that other stuff, paint brushes and tools and everything. So I sent them money, and in fact I went down there probably a dozen times myself to help build the sets. We spent a year building all the sets, and then it came time for our first episode. And I paid to fly everybody down, I paid to feed them, I paid to put them in hotels. It was my dream, so I figured I should do that. Plus, once we finished our first episode, now we have a proof of concept. Now we have an actual product, a physical product to go, this is what we can do. If you like this, we would be happy to make more if you like it. And so we released it, not knowing whether anybody would like it or not. And the response was really good. And so after that, we launched crowdfunding campaigns. We launched a Kickstarter, or as we like to call it, Kirkstarter. I know, that's a lame joke, but it works. I mean, we called it a Kirkstarter. And we raised enough money to make episodes 2, 3, and 4. And then we launched another one to make 5, 6, and 7. And then we launched one more to make 8, 9, 10, and 11, which we made all in the last year when we got the word that we needed to wrap it up. 11. We made 11 full-length episodes. Our budget, I'll even tell you because I'm very proud of this. Does anybody know how much the original series budget per episode budget was? Anybody ever read any books or know the answer to that? Oh God, in 67? 68? Yeah. How much was it? Anybody know? 115,000. 115 to $118,000 in, Next Generation was $1 million per episode. But in the late 60s, the original series budget was 115 to 118,000. That is well over $1 million in today's money. Keep that number in your mind. To make a full-length episode of Star Trek with full cast, full crew, special effects, music, all of it, $1 million per episode. We made our episodes. Our first episode cost me about, just the episode, cost me about $35,000. And then our final episodes were upwards of maybe $65,000 to $70,000. Now we're still talking about less than 1/10 what you would have normally paid to make something of the quality that we made. So we were very, very good stewards of the money that was donated. We got an awful lot out of the money that was donated. And we had stretch goals, like if we made more than we intended, we built engineering, which had never been built before. In fact, even today, there are only 2 places on the whole planet that you can see the engineering room, and only one of them is to scale.
And free.
And it's ours. The other place that it is the building isn't high enough to build it to scale. Because as you know, engineering is a 2-story set. So they didn't have enough space to build it to scale, and ours is to scale. Question, anybody? Yes, sir.
Mine is actually a statement and a question.
Okay.
Here. So the statement is this. Starting off, I never really considered myself much of a Star Trek fan. Star Trek continues, I told you this before, what got me started.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Watching the series, I was like,
It was the Gigi Edgley episode, wasn't it?
You're welcome.
I hate it. Ooh, there's Gigi. I love it.
Let me just say, as now a fan of Star Trek, thank you for helping me to get that.
Oh, my pleasure. You know what I love about that? And you know what I really love about this is that, for those of you that may not know, I do a lot of voice work professionally, voice acting work. And a lot of the work that I've done is anime, Japanese anime work. And as you would imagine, that demographic skews a little younger, right? Most of these anime fans, you know what Star Trek is. That's something their granddad watched, you know what I mean? Or maybe their parents, but they're not into that. So imagine how gratifying it is to make something that an anime fan can sit down with their parents or their grandparents and say, these voice actors that do this work that I love are in this, and the parents want to watch it because it's more Star Trek, and it brings those 2 worlds together. And I really love that. Yeah.
Another question. So the episode Divided We Stand.
Yes. One of my favorites.
Confederate and Union Army, how did you come about with that?
What? Considering?
I think it was Divided We Stand, the one where you guys.
Yes, well, that's the one.
With the 2 different armies that when you ended up back in time.
Yes.
Where did you get the people to be?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Of course I'd like to know. Why do you think that's the question?
He's referring to our 5th episode. It was called Divided We Stand. It was kind of a takeoff on the United We Stand, Divided We Fall. Many of my favorite Star Trek episodes of the original series were the ones that they went to some period in history. I love those. Whether it was the gangsters of the 20s, Piece of the Action, or whether it was the Depression era, City United Forever, whether it was Patterns of Force, Nazi Germany, whether it was the Old West, Spectre of the Gun, whether it was, I mean, they went to a lot of different, Simon Earth, they went to different periods in history. And I always loved those episodes. And one day I was sitting around thinking, what's a period that they never went to? And I thought, oh my gosh, the Civil War. And Gene Roddenberry was a big Civil War buff. In my research, I found out that there was a guy that served in the Union Army named James T. Kirk. I am not kidding you. He was part of a Pennsylvania detachment of the Union Army. James T. Kirk. And guess what his father's name was? I am not kidding you. No. What was James Kirk's father's name? George. This guy's name was George. His dad's name was George Kirk. Amazing. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Roddenberry, if that's where he got it. I mean, because I know he was a big fan. And we know that Kirk was a fan of Lincoln from the series, right? So we wrote this story, but as you can imagine, if you try to make an episode like that, you have a pretty tall order. Because how do you make a Civil War episode with without tons of horses and cannons and, Union soldiers and rebel soldiers and uniforms and, battles and period costumes and period weaponry and tools and all of that. So what we did was, we hooked up with a Civil War reenactment group. Now, there were only 20 of those guys. So how do you pull off giant fight, battle, war scenes with 20 guys? Well, you don't. But what we did was we brought them down to the studio and we used them as what are called featured extras. Featured extras are extras that you can actually choreograph. Like, I want you here, and I want you to move over here, and you're going to sit beside Gigi, and she's going to have a line, and I want you to say this. Like, they don't have big roles, but you have to be able to control them and work the way you need them for the scene. So we brought these guys down, but here's the best part, though. They were on their way to a Civil War reenactment of the Battle of Olustee Creek, which just so happened to be 45 minutes from our studio. And once a year, thousands of reenactors descended upon Olustee and reenacted that battle. We're talking cannons, horses, thousands of people with tents and pots set up over campfires, all period stuff. So we shot the guts of our episode at our studio with these reenactors. And then we packed up and went to Olustee and shot a bunch of what production people call B-roll, which is basically just a bunch of secondary footage of horses and people charging and yelling and running and cannons going off, and we cut it into the episode to create a much bigger scope than we could have ever afforded. If we needed to pay for that, it would have never happened. Yes?
Have you ever been to Point Park on Lookout Mountain?
No.
There is a Civil War monument there to one of the Pennsylvania armies. I don't remember which one. I'm just curious now. I have to go look.
Wow.
See if the names of maybe Kirk is on that.
Would that be cool?
That'd be crazy.
I'm trying to remember which one it was, like 2nd Pennsylvania or something. In fact, you know what? When we were writing the script, have you seen the series? Have you seen my series?
Yeah, part of it.
When we were writing the script for this episode, the Civil War episode, and I found out that there was actually a James T. Kirk in the Civil War, I thought, I wonder if we should kind of make that a big plot point. Like, should that be a big part of the story? And we decided not to do that. But I had to make reference to it. Like, you have to, even if it's just a little Easter egg, you gotta have it in there. So there's one scene, for those of you that remember, where Kirk and McCoy are walking through the woods, and they come across this group of Union soldiers. And Kirk tries to tell them that McCoy, who of course is rebel, right, who's a Confederacy, is his prisoner. They're trying to get out from underneath this group of Union soldiers. And the guy running the group of Union soldiers comes up to him and he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Kirk, James, T." And he goes, "22nd Pennsylvania?" And I go, "Yeah." That's me. And he goes, "I thought he was a lieutenant colonel." So it was that little exchange to say there actually was a James Kirk that even this guy knew in the Union Army. But, what? Did you find it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is freaking awesome. What was this? Pennsylvania Reserves?
10th Pennsylvania Reserve.
10th Pennsylvania, yeah. He was like a businessman, and then when the war started, he... That's so cool! I'm so sorry, do you want to... I would like you guys to hear from one of our beloved guest stars. Tell them about your experience doing your episode.
No comment.
No. That worked out really well, didn't it?
I've never worked on a set with so many, it was so full of love and excitement. After you did a take, they would stop and they would clap. I was like, what? What's happening right now? People would not be needed until the afternoon and then come at first thing in the morning just to sit and watch. And then we'd spend all day filming, and as soon as we wrap, they're like, "Now let's go to dinner." I'm like, "Haven't we just hung out all day with each other?" And they're like, okay. So I was very honoured. Vic's a really, really dear friend and knows me inside out, and I adore you. And I was very honoured to be part of that universe, so thank you.
I adore her. She's amazing. Guys, if you guys see it, check it out. And I'm going to tell you a fun little fact about Gigi's character, too. In that episode, and those of you that remember, it was called Come Out Between the Dragons. It was about a creature that broke through the hull of the Enterprise, and everybody thought it was an evil, scary, dangerous creature. And her character had some sort of a undefinable connection to this creature. And as we were writing the story, I was always telling people in my production team, it was kind of like E.T. Like how Elliot had this connection to E.T. that you couldn't really describe or define it. You could feel what he was feeling, you could sense it. And so her character's name in the episode was
Eliza Taylor.
Eliza Taylor. E.T. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes. Again, the final two-part episode.
Yes.
Again, I know. There was a lot of care going into the sound production. Now, during the battle with the Roman bird prey in the Congo, there was it sounded like the beads are sharp chord.
Yes. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Now was that? Are you alluding to?
Oh yeah. You know what? This is I know we're out of time, so let me end with this, okay? Thank you. This is a great question. Because something else that we did with Star Trek Continues that I don't think any fan production has ever done, we had original full orchestra music scored and recorded for our series. Now, we started using tracks from the original series, but then when we got to our 4th episode, a guy contacted me on the internet. He said, "Hey, I'd love to write some original music for your series." And now I write music too, and I know how important music is. And original Star Trek music was in the 60s. Those were real instruments. That was an orchestra. It wasn't synthesizers, right? You can't fake that. And so I told the guy, I'm like, "Well, we would love that, but I don't have access to an orchestra. Do you?" And he goes, Yes? Turns out the guy taught composition at Juilliard in New York. And he composed original music that sounds exactly like classic Star Trek music, but it's all original. And then I flew up there to New York, and he had a student orchestra. And if you go to our website, also, StarTrekContinues.com, there are behind-the-scenes videos of those scoring sessions with them, this full orchestra playing. And in reference to what he said, our final two-part episode, I wanted to start leaning toward the motion picture. So I found a guy named Craig Huxley. Anybody know that name? Craig Huxley was the little redhead kid in the episode And the Children Shall Lead. He was Tommy Starnes in the original episode of Star Trek. And he's a musician and composer, and he created an instrument called the blaster beam. It's a 20-foot long I-beam, metal beam, with strings and stuff stretched across it. And that's the thing that they used in the motion picture soundtrack. That really great. I contacted him, and he played the blaster beam for our score for our final two-part finale. So, yeah, it was amazing. You guys, I kept you longer than I meant to. Sorry. Thank you so much. Do me a favor, check out StarTrekContinues.com. If you've seen the episodes, please spread the word. If you haven't, check them out. And I think Gigi and I are going back to our table for just a little while. Come over and see us, all right? Come say hello. Thanks so much.